All right, hello internet. I'm Jackie Fox. Today I'm gonna try to quickly talk you through some quick Trials of Reckoning tips. So the first thing that I like to do, I haven't done it yet, so do as I say, not as I do, is complete all 5 of these. The first, I usually do 2 runs of each on the first day. The first run is with a companion, that is to get the highest score possible. The second run is without a no, I'm sorry. I only do 1 run of the normal ones because one of the stars is actually to bring a companion, so you can get that highest score and that at the same time. Do all 5 of these, that unlocks the hard stuff. Those you want to run twice for the reason that I said earlier. But then you want to unlock 4 and 5. Because 4 and 5 have massive numbers of tickets and can be done a max of 3 times per day. You want to be doing those 3 times every day. If you don't have time, these are absolutely the best ones to blow your skip tickets on. If not, maybe hard 3 is a good way to go. You definitely don't want to mess with the normals, but like, I would reserve a certain amount of, personally, just from the way that I play the game, I would reserve a certain amount of the skip tickets, just thinking of needing 6 for every day that TOR is going, and kind of keep that aside, just in case I'm feeling really F it, I don't have the energy, or I'm burnout, I don't want to follow through. I can just spam skip tickets on those every day and be fine. But if you really want to be a tryhard, those are really great ones to kind of do each run individually and pick a new companion unit every time, because you can get a massive high score on those. And that's going to give you better ticket rewards. And again, the ticket rewards on those 2 missions are just slanted in your favor. But what I recommend to do in terms of farming normal and hard, sometimes, I don't think that this one is the case, but sometimes it is technically faster in some ways to do, I want to say normal 5 as the one that you farm. And I think that works usually because it's faster, and because you'll ultimately, it costs half as much energy, so you'll ultimately get twice as many runs as bang for your buck if you're really blasting these out fast. So that, even though it drops less tickets per run, you're doing twice as many runs, and if you're doing them twice as fast, like the Final Fantasy IV with Demon Wall, because, you can basically one-shot the Demon Wall on normal. So like you were doing that in all of maybe 35 seconds with load times. So that one was really great for normal 5. I don't think this one's going to be that way. So it's probably going to be hard 3 that you want to spam. And that one, it's a little bit slower on getting you tickets, just a little bit. But even kind of counting the tickets into it and kind of factoring out the score that you can get from the boss from those, and it's not a huge difference. You're probably going to end up with more high score farming hard 3, even though it has some disadvantages to normal 5. But the biggest piece of advice that I have for people, especially people who haven't played with their team, Caveman, can you share your screen? Nah, never mind. I'll just show you my team. Fuck that. Why should I put you on the spot?
I mean, I was able to get a score of 8,000 on hard.
Fair enough.
Easy.
And building for the boss is a slightly different thing than building for farming. But when you're building for farming, the one thing to keep in mind, the one thing that is probably going to be most important, the one thing that supersedes all other things, although like elemental and various chaining is a good way to raise your high score. And especially in the big boss fights, that's definitely the way to go. So maybe grouping these up helps my score a little bit on average. And getting my slash units next to... Let's line my slash units up too. I don't know how often this formation is actually going to work out like this, but, it'll help the chaining. But really what I'm doing is I'm trying to focus as hard as I can on getting every high bonus that I can. None of these missions are hard. If you have relatively decent units, they're going to get a pretty good score. So really the modifier that you're most concerned with is your bonus for farming. Now, what I recommend, and this is a little weird, and it's not intuitive. Actually, let me go back to that team though, because there's such a good example of this. It's not intuitive, but tour, I want to say last 2 weeks. Is this not a 2-week one? I think like the last one was 1 week.
It's a 6-day one.
Fucked. Really?
Yes.
So am I? Oh man, I must be hallucinating about one of these lasting for 2 weeks. Fuck. No, like that used to be the norm. What is going on? I don't understand. Okay, maybe, I don't know if I'm misremembering this or if it genuinely used to be this way and for some reason it's not anymore. But I remember us getting like 2 weeks with this previously. And what I would do is I would go the whole first week not just collecting boss tickets, not doing the boss battles. And for one really simple reason. Day one, when I build this team, none of the... Okay, maybe these two. These two probably have some affinity with each other. But, like, these units, I never use them. They don't have affinity with their espers. So, here's my logic. These units may not be the best. And if I was going into the boss fight, I would balance my bonus with actually being able to clear it. And being able to clear it well, getting a really good high score. By the way, no, I'll get into that in a second. But the reason that I tell people to hold off on doing the boss fights and not doing the boss fights super early. Also, don't use your boss skip tickets. Save those until the very end as well. There's a reason for that, and I'll get to it. Is because you're probably using a lot of new units just for their bonus. Maybe they're built up, maybe they're not. They don't have affinity with their espers, and you're probably using a wonk-ass rainbow team like this. Right? What's your team look like, Caveman? Give me a second from having to talk all the time.
Sure. So my team is a full fire team. I have Rain. Rain is very good at... he's just there to hit, and that's about it. To be hit, 1. And 2, his LB lowers fire resistance.
Yep.
Which is really gonna gain that score up, at least for the hard boss. And then I just use Ildira and my Yuffie to chain their Trinity blind attack. I forget its actual name. And to
Blinding Trinity.
Blinding Trinity,
I guess.
And I usually, before Sephiroth dies, either get 17 to 25 elemental and slashing on him. So that's ultimately how I was able to get my score so high. Luarsa, what I do is I just buff for a few turns, and then I just have her quad shot all of the ads.
Okay.
And that's about it. I mean, on auto, I can reliably get anywhere from 7,700 and 8,080. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm realizing that I asked you slightly the wrong question.
Okay.
Because in my mind, we're still in the farming team portion of this explanation.
Team,
yeah. What's your farming team look like?
It's the same.
Okay. So what I would say, as a person who's done more of the tours, you're not going to get a huge score modifier necessarily from like your team. You have way more room to build up all the things that are beneficial for having elemental chaining, elemental teams in a big boss fight. You're going to be one-shotting so many things in the farming missions for this that you're not going to be able to build a chain on anybody. Everybody's getting one shot. They're getting the maximum chain you can build on them is probably 3 from quad shot, So Rainbow doesn't hurt you as much. So I would say to lean way more into just getting all the bonus on there that you can, kind of regardless of how you have to do it.
So build 2 teams, 1 for farming, 1 for
absolutely boss. Yes, you have a farming team and then you have a boss team. Now I haven't built my boss teams yet, and my boss team is probably a lot closer to what you're talking about, because I'll try to get a lot of chaining together, or maybe I'll throw, like, I'm probably going to put Tifa on any of my boss teams just because of, well, maybe not this Tifa, but like okay. One thing to think about, and I would be doing differently if this were not a beginner's account, but I would do my damnedest not to use any units, regardless of their level of bonus, if they are not at least level 99. Because fuck any additional bonus that they have if they don't have a second VC slot to get another bonus VC. Because unlike Arena, bonuses stack all the way. So you want to get as many bonuses in here as you can. So not having a second VC slot is such a handicap. Thing is, I don't have big bonus units, and I really don't have that many more VCs. So I don't know. Like, I guess this is probably the best I can do for a farming team right now, but that's another piece of advice that I would do. But if you have a level 99 Tifa, she's probably a unit that you try to cram onto any team that you have just to get that big bonus. And then, so the way that I would handle the...
Sadly, mine is max is 50, so...
Okay.
I know what you were saying with the lower level ones.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably throw her on the normal one and she'll be fine. So maybe let me try that real quick.
That piece of advice is really going to depend on how many vision cards you have that are bonuses right now. Editor Jackie here, just to save a little bit of time. I realized that something that I said was wrong, so I'm just going to cut the whole section that was about. But the reason that I was going into the normal and hard boss fights twice to get all of the mission clears didn't have anything to do with companions, as I said in the original video, because you can't bring them. It was actually because of the 3 elemental chain mission, because I wasn't bringing Tifa, and Tifa was the one that I would switch in. But actually, you have a lot of options to get that 3 chain really easily. You can run Tifa, you can run Luartha, Quad Shot or Star Shower will do this, so it's very easy to do these all in one. Another thing that I didn't mention in here, we're going to talk about the fact that you build a different boss team and a different farming team, because the farming missions are pretty easy even for new accounts, so you should have no trouble just grinding through there with absolutely maximum bonus that you can get. And really, your score isn't going to get that much better for having great units, and really your rewards aren't going to get that much better for having better units. So really, you want to focus on bonus. And I also recommend that only the newest of accounts that are having difficulty, or people who've just forgotten about this at the last minute, only they use boss skip tickets. Because if you can't reliably get through the boss on auto, it can be a pain to do all those runs manually. I think any player can probably do the boss maybe at least at normal on manual, or at least at normal on auto, and maybe hard on manual, which is a lot better. It's just way more ticket efficient to do the hard if you can. But those people might want to use skip tickets, and the piece of advice that I would give specifically to them is clear it to get all of your stars with your mission team, or maybe even... I mean, you want the best bonuses you can get on this team still, but you also want it to be able to do the mission. And then when you use skip tickets, the score that you get for skipping is going to be reduced from your high score. So you kind of set that high watermark with that team, and then your skips are going to be based on that. But they're also modified by the modifiers on the team that you're skipping with. And since you don't actually have to fight it, what I recommend is you use your farming team to spam the skip tickets with, because you don't actually have to worry about completing the map, so you might as well get the biggest bonus modifier. And this still isn't going to make up for not running through the fight yourself. But if you can't do that, or if you've run out of time to do that because there's a time crunch, then absolutely use your highest bonus team with your skip tickets. Do not use your boss team with your skip tickets, but also try not to use your boss skip tickets. Okay, back to the video. What's up, wotv? Looks like I'm back to explain to you the idea and technique behind my best run yet. This got me a score of close to 14k, so take notes. The units in the middle were negotiable. They're all light / chaining units. Those are the easiest weaknesses, so if you have everything, that's what I go for. But also pay attention to the Tifa and the Cloud on the wings, and even though And I also want you to focus on the fact that I'm not really using armor on anyone. I'm also using my previous Trials of Reckoning rewards, although not the ones that I'm going to have a whole other Editor Jackie exclusive video about why I don't like the Moogle Cloak, but think you should do TOR anyways. Because those are just really good at ramping up your damage, and to be quite honest, especially with this team on this map, I don't need to ramp up my damage much. But I'm probably going to speed this up a lot in post, so just kind of pay attention to how I'm setting up my units and why and where, and you'll see what I'm going to do with them here in just a second. Now, technically in this run I kill everything on the map, but I'm not sure how the map feels about re-raise. I might have to compare my scores to figure that out. But for right now, these three are really good at killing the boss. I actually can't build a very high elemental or damage type chain with them. I think I usually peter out at around 8 or 9, which is actually lower than what Caveman was hitting in his video, which you saw previous. The thing is, they can do it all in one turn. They just see Sephiroth and get like twice as many turns as him, and all of them are doing damage. Like, all of them are hit, like, they hit the max damage on him so fast. But this is a really important tech. This is why I put her there. That gives her just enough range to sneak up on these guys and punch them in the face. This will save you a couple of turns on ads. Also, it counts as overkill. Also, it counts as elemental weakness. That's why Tifa is over there. We have water units on the other side of the map as well. We have 2 of them, and that's why Cloud is where he is. Now, arguably, he may not need much AP, depending on how you have him built, some of the TMR you have on him, whatever. So maybe you actually don't buff to save some CT because of everything on this team. He was the person who needed one more turn to get it done perfect, because this run is pretty close to perfect, but not quite. I also want to point out that almost all of my light buffs are basically superfluous. I don't need them. I really do not need them. It is the debuffs that I'm applying to Sephiroth that actually count. The only buff that really matters at any point in here is going to be the one that I will do with Lucio on his next turn, I want to say. I'm setting myself up for him to be able to do this next turn, and that's going to be the trigger that puts me into boss fight mode. So the first thing that you want to take out with Cloud, and probably the first thing that you're really going to be in range for, is this guy over here. Now, I could shoot the other guy, but he's not going to move, and I can crowd kill him with the Cactar. I think the game wants you to get the Cactars for an extra 50 score. It's not huge, but it is a thing. So you might as well aim for it if you're really going for that high score. But I'm trying to figure out what I should do with Tifa here, and I remember that I put her TMR on her for a reason. Part of that reason is that she needs AP, but also this is really going to crank up her damage a lot. So hopefully there's another Earth unit up here. We're going to try to get to that and probably Star Shower. Just to build up a really... And because a lot of people think I probably have better elemental and damage type chaining as a big part of why my team is doing better than Caveman's run, but that's because I'm exploiting the weaknesses of basically the whole map. The only ones that I can't really mess with is the one, well, there is a dark one in the corner that I probably can't get to very easily, and there's a fire in the back that I can't do very well, but everything else I can exploit and kill with its weakness with this setup. So this is the real setup here. This is Rob's TMR. This is going to be giving me slash attack up, more offensive power, but I'm going to be hitting damage caps real quick. But what you're going to notice is it quickened my whole chaining team, so now they can all get in range to fuck this guy up. If you are, I want you to pay attention to the fact I screwed up a run with I'll Protect Everyone. That's a magic attack. You can see it on that screen. It doesn't have the sword next to it. So you want to, we're doing a slash chain here. Ideally, I think having Elena LB early is good because he just took a turn. I timed my Keen Blade right after he's taken a turn so that I can like or right before, so that I can immediately get in here and get the agility down on him. That's important. Although with Thornlit, other characters could also do that agility down for you, so it's not necessary to have Elena, or even you could just Thornlit. You know what I mean? Thornlet and a critical will get it. And probably one of the most efficient ways to really break this boss well, actually probably the best would be lock to break slash resistance, but it would probably be Lucio with a Thornlet using his LB, because we want to get our light resistance as low as possible, so that's going to be his first move as Luminous Grace. And this is just going to increase the modifier for our chains, and it's also going to increase the damage, although we're hitting the damage cap. And also run, if you can help it, as many like damage limit up cards. But actually you could pull some off if you're trying to get a larger chain but less overkill. That might actually be smart, because if I was doing slightly less damage with my big hitters, I might be able to keep Sephiroth alive long enough to really take out the rest of the map. Now, as long as you're doing this really efficiently, and this Tifa trick with Overpower on the first turn is really going to help you out a lot. This was a marked difference between my previous runs, just because I pulled that one first turn move off with her. So you have some wiggle room, and this is like the most efficient bonus light slash team that I can think of. This is probably the ideal 3. So since yours probably isn't as efficient, you may not have as much trouble having the turns to wipe out the rest of the map. But as you can see for me, like, I'm gonna have to start skipping turns, and like, so I'm gonna look at my turn order and see that that Sylvie has an opportunity to move before him. So Sylvie's gonna be my finisher. I'm going to have to leave a unit alive because Cloud isn't going to get his turn before Sylvie. If he was slightly faster, he could just ping this last unit on the map before we get Sephiroth. But other than that, so close to clear. We get an evocation. I'm not sure that matters very much, but apparently he was weak to it, so cool. I guess that helps with overkill. And now Sylvie comes in for the grand finale. And I'm trying to look on the map to see, yeah, that one guy that can take about one hit is still alive. But if I pass this up, I pass up the chance of getting a really good overkill on the final boss. And, you know, I've broken him so much, I feel like this is just going to raise my score as much as possible. Now, I do something really dumb here, which is look for my large modifier instead of my mediums. This isn't dumb for really any other reason except that I am definitely hitting the damage cap even if I use a small mod. So it's really not worth it. There's no point. I could have used my most basic light elemental slashing attack and it would have hit the damage cap at that point in the chain, and this gets me real damn close to 14k. So there you go. That's how you beat this. Boss advice, because I haven't fought this boss. You could probably get better boss advice specific to this boss than I could, but
my boss, I was just going with what I learned from doing the guild the reruns.
Guild raids.
What you taught me from doing the reruns when you had to carry me for most of them.
Okay, yeah.
So,
yeah, it is a similar format. So
I was using that format, and it surprisingly worked well.
Well, you've got most of it. There are some idiosyncrasies to this. So there's I don't know how much you looked at the score screen. I wish I had like editor Jackie, get a picture of the score screen, because I'm eventually going to do boss fights before this probably goes up. Oh shit, I can't edit on. I don't know, went up. Fuck. Ah! This week is a nightmare. But so looking at that screen, there's a couple of things that you want to do to kind of maximize your score. You want to take out as many enemies as possible. You want to do overkill on those enemies as well. So there's going to be enemies probably at weird areas of the map that are kind of hard to get to if you rush the main boss too quickly. So there might be some units, definitely use initial placement, at least at first, and maybe even into it depending on where the placements are. Because you might want to put a unit in a specific place so that its AI can take them over to those units and then kind of have them loop back in. I'll have to see if I have some footage from Kefka. Kefka was a really good example of this. But ultimately, you want to, after you've taken all those guys out, the other ways that you're going to maximize your score is by building the biggest wet damage type and elemental chains that you can. And while you're on that topic, what you said about rain is really good for this. because one of the biggest parts of that is either making an elemental weakness if you have to, or exploiting the elemental weakness the boss already has. Sephiroth is big boss on this, right?
Yes.
I don't know that he's necessarily going to have be walking into the fight with any elemental weaknesses. Maybe light. Who knows? I could look that up. But I'm not going. Yeah, exactly. So you gave him a fire resistance, and that is going to affect your score in a very positive way. So you're just like I haven't put this video out yet, but as I say, with general PvE big boss content, as I call it, where you've got a guy that's thick enough that he can really take a number of hits, your goal is going to be to build the biggest elemental / damage type chain that you can on him. And in this format especially, that's going to give you a really big score, and that's really going to maximize your boss runs. What you want to do, you definitely want to manual like your first boss fight. You want to get through the normal one just for the initial completion rewards once, and then try to full clear the final one. You might have to do a couple of, I forget how this works, whatever you got to do to get through it. And then if you really have trouble autoing through this, you can start using skip tickets. For anyone who can actually get through this fight, I recommend that you save your boss skip tickets until the last minute. Well, you have a little bit less of this trouble with your boss team because you're already kind of using an elemental affinity team as it is. Maybe, you know, your Sephiroth needs to spend some time with the boys to like gel. You might be able to fight the boss effectively sooner. But if you wait a couple days and let those last couple units develop affinity with the Respers or resonance with each other, whichever way that works, you'll probably find that you pick up maybe 500 or 600 points one way or another on that. So why not save a lot of your boss runs until kind of the end when your team is at its most cohesive? You know, they've learned the power of teamwork after hundreds and hundreds of grind runs together. And, you know, if there's overlaps between your grind team and your boss team, that naturally helps that process out, which means that, like, you don't have to do any additional work to really get that affinity and resonance. You just let them grind for 5 or 6 days and then have them just beat the boss repeatedly for the last 2, and you're pretty much good. That's, like, the best way to get this stuff. And I'm pretty sure we didn't say it in this video, but you were saying to me, because this was your first TOR, you were like, man, I'm doing the math, and, like, I don't think it's going to be possible for me to get enough recipes for a +6. And you told me, like, you know, you've got your +2, that's 7 recipes worth of stuff right there. You said you had 18 recipes, so now we're up to 25 out of 64, I think. You told me there was another 23 in the boxes. But the thing that you didn't realize is that that final box has like 500 or 550 items in it. And 10 of those are recipes, but that box is repeatable. So essentially what you're probably going to want to do is, from the math that we did together, you're going to want to go all the way through that box at least 3 times to get the recipes, that 5th and final box. Fully reset it at least twice and get everything in it. And maybe you even have to do this another time to get additional special resources that are hard to get otherwise. Especially if you're a newer player and you haven't done TORs and that type of stuff, maybe haven't built up excesses of some of this stuff. But usually that's pretty attainable, and you were telling me that you're on like box 3, and the earlier boxes are actually bigger, and well, actually they're faster to skip too, because you can wait until you get all the primo prizes and then skip, and usually that's worth it. Like, there's not a lot, like even the recipes, if you're waiting around for those if you somehow have recipes left in the box, it's probably still more efficient to just get your ass to 5 as fast as you can and repeat that, to stick around in any of the boxes on the way, unless there's really something left in there that you absolutely need that wasn't on that like primo item, you know? So that's how to think about boxes. And if you're already on box 3 on day 1, then you're gonna have no problem hitting this. I mean, again, I'm advising you to kind of hold off on the bosses, and the boss fights are part of the reason you have that many medals. because that's really how you cash in and get the medals. But if you keep up the same rate of farming for like the next 3 days and don't fight the boss at all, and then fight the boss on day 4, you'll probably be pretty close at the end of day 4, and that's gonna be pretty good.
Like today, I set up for companions for our guild and for all my friends. To be honest, Yuffie with her card and another card that gives a bonus. So hopefully people catch on to that and they'll bring along my Yuffie. And I mean, that has its own bonuses.
Cool. Okay, well, I think that's everything I could possibly say about TOR. There's probably a lot of Trials of Reckoning. There's probably a lot of people who've already tuned out, and hell, I've probably already edited several of the last minutes out, ultimately. So, I'll see you in the next one.